Hey everyone, Sycra here, and today I'm doing a tutorial on how to draw feet. And I've done this tutorial before, but I figured out some new things and some tips and tricks that I thought would be good to share, and also I can cover some things I didn't cover in the other videos. So, to begin with, I want to talk about the basic footprint shape, and it's what I always start with, because usually people understand, the shape of a footprint, something like this, and then you've got this part, and it comes around like that. And most people have no trouble doing this or thinking about this when it comes to a footprint. But then when they draw feet, and it's not like everyone does this, but it's something I see really often. I see shapes like this, and I mean, if you think about the footprint shape, that would make it like, I don't know, maybe something like that. Like, it doesn't work. So the first thing I want people to keep in mind is this, that there's a curve here, and a curve here, and a curve here, and, well, you have this actually filled in, but you have a curve. So it's a lot of curves. It's not flat like this one. It's flat, and then it's flat, and it's flat, and it's flat, and it fits in a box. So I'm going to highlight the shape that this foot actually fits in, and it's something more like this. And this is the shape I use when I simplify the foot anyway. I use this shape. So when I do it quickly, and I sort of exaggerate it too, but it's something more like this. I don't know, it's almost like a weird banana, or maybe those old school telephones, the ones that go like that, with the whatever, the wires. When I was young, we had telephones like this. Anyway, it's kind of like that, but stretched, where you have this part here, and this is where the toes would go. Now notice that the big toe, it's not like, I mean, you can have it where it's more like this shape, but I tend to have it here in this, like I fit the toes within this. So then I can block this out, and then fit the toes here. And the way I do that with the toes is, I think first of all I break out where the big toe is. So let's just draw over this footprint one anyway. So let's say this is the big toe, right? This one I kind of guess at the size of it, and then the rest, what I can do is, okay, so now I have a space from here to here, and the little toe actually doesn't, at least, because I use my own feet for reference, and I do this with hands, and I do this with everything, like ears, how to draw ears. I just looked at my own ear, so when I draw ears, they tend to be my ear. But anyway, what I noticed is, like, the little toe is kind of not right on the edge, but a little bit inside. So then I do this. I kind of think of it like you just break this in half, right? So you have this shape here, you break it in half, and then divide it once more. So now they're in quarters, and that's where 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how I get that shape. Okay, so I'm gonna go over a way of creating the shape, I suppose, because for me, I've kind of just, I don't know, internalized this. Like, I can sort of see this shape, and it's pretty easy for me. But I'm gonna try and describe it if it's something that you might have trouble with. Okay, so start with like a circle, right? That's the heel, and then you've got this long part, and that's like the, I don't know what it's called, but that's the I don't know part. And then you have like a box, right? And then you have a triangle here. So if you think of these shapes, okay, then you can kind of build it. And the way you do it is keep the circle. So keep the heel. Let me just do this and just copy it. And I'll use the lasso to alter it. So what you do is you keep the heel in the same spot, and you keep this part roughly, the second box in roughly the same spot. Maybe actually move it a bit to the side, and then you take this one, this box, and you move it this way. Okay, and then you take this triangle and you move it towards the top of the box, but then you have to skew it. You have to skew it so this part, the point, is more like that. Okay? And that, like in a rough way, that gives you that shape. I don't know if that's helpful. I think it's actually just easier to practice doing a shape like this. And I noticed this shape a lot when I used to read comics, because in superhero comics, like especially when you see Spider-Man, there's a lot of poses where he's got like his foot up, and then maybe his back leg is here, and then he's got his other leg coming down here. And I saw it was simplified as this triangle thing. And like often artists would simplify it as this triangle thing. And so I got used to seeing this shape. Anyway, so that's the shape that I think it's good to start with. And then just practice it a bunch of times, right? Like if you're getting used to it, just practice it. And you can change it up. So it's just experiment, right? Like maybe make the heel really small, and then you could have this part really big, or do the opposite. Make the heel more chunky. You can change the taper of this, so it's more tapered or less tapered. You could make it very straight like this, I suppose, where this part is there, but then the part where you put in the toes is generally the same. Now you can also have it where the second, like some people have it where their big toe is here, it's the highest point, and then all the other toes kind of go down from there. And so here would be the big toe, and then all the other toes are, you know, lower. And you'll see there's an, okay, so here's also something that's important. So when you look at this toe and this inside part, like this part right here, where it separates, that starts, let's say that starts here, right? Okay, well then the second toe tends to start above that, and then it goes lower and lower, and then the lowest, like the little toe, that actually ends below the line. I hope that makes sense. But the important thing that I'm trying to get across is that these things are on curves. Like there's arcs going like this, arcs going like this, arcs going like this. Like this tends to have an arc to it. This has an arc here. So yeah, sometimes the big toe is out front, sometimes it's the other way, where the middle toe is out front here. And I think there's even situations where the third one is, or not, the second toe is out front, and sometimes it's the one where like even this third one I think can be the bigger one. So regardless though, like whether you do it like this or like this, you'll see there's still this arc, this curve. So this shape is something, again, practice it a lot, practice it doing it this way and then the other way. I found it doesn't have to be exact, because okay, so I'm not an expert when it comes to feet, but what I realize is like so many people are so bad or neglectful when it comes to feet that by contrast, I think you don't have to do much to create something fairly decent. So anyway, so yeah, practice that shape some. Okay, now I'm going to do the same shape, but the other view, the top view. So this is the bottom view, and to make it the top view, well, it's going to be the same shape. It's just this part See here where we get that part and it goes in? It goes more like that. It's a bit more filled in. And then here is where the ankle is going to be. Okay? So you get your ankle and then your leg is coming up here. So this is in perspective and we're looking down. So now the same arc is there for where the toes are. Right? And it still follows that arc. So we get our arc, except now you have the nails here. And usually just adding the toenail, it's enough to get a sense. And then I do this pattern with, when I do the bottom view, I just make it into circles. And you can do that too. And then just create that secondary arc, making sure that the little toe is going to end close or more lower than where the big toe starts. And again, I don't know, this is very variable, so I suppose you know, if your feet are different, then, you know, I'm not saying that's wrong, and I'm not trying to say this is an absolute. These are just, again, observations. So it gets, like, you get the knuckle parts here, 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 and then you get the nail parts here. And the way I do it is I tend to just indicate this area. I guess there's different ways to do it, and the way I think of it is a little bit more like like this shape. For the toes, I think of them more like that shape as opposed to a circle or like a cylinder. Like, I don't think of them as a cylinder, but my style is kind of boxy, so, or sharp rather, so it's more likely for me to think of them this way anyway. But anyway, I've seen people do the toes more like this, and maybe more in an oval thing, and that's not wrong, it's just a different shape. And then you might have like more round toes, or you might have, you know, the way I do it is a bit more like this. And the thing that's important is I indicate it stronger here, and I don't just do this, like I don't make it, you know, super dark all around. I guess that's not too wrong, but I tend to darken it here around the lower portion, and then maybe it just suggests things a bit more, leaves it a bit more, I don't know if I should say elegant, but something like that. Like, it feels more right to have it so it's darker, but that's pretty much it. So, you know, you get your toes, and then you have this shape going down. And I guess I can erase all this extra stuff from where the other bottom part was. And you can see, like, yeah, okay, that kind of resembles, and this is the ankle. And that resembles the top view of a foot. So it's like, okay. Something like this. So basically the shape is very much the same, whether it's the top or the bottom. It's just, you know, the toes are what are different. So, oh, the other thing about the toes on the bottom view that I notice is I tend to, again, I have this shape more as opposed to just an oval. Try not to think of them as just ovals, or if they're ovals, I give it this type of taper, so it gets a bit, at least this shape, more egg-shaped, I guess. Yeah, it's more egg-shaped. I guess, yeah, here you could simplify this into more of an egg, and then I do, so these lines are going this way, right, bulging out, and then I go inward for the connecting part, and then I have the next bulge area. So, and then for the other toes, the smaller ones, I do pretty much put these as ovals, but again, it goes in for, like, it goes out here and then in here. I guess this could be a foot in perspective or something like that. And then with the little toe, it tends to point a bit lower, so you might even see like the toenail here, even on the bottom view, if it was doing a angle like this where it's very foreshortened. I hope this makes sense. Like, it's really coming at us. Sorry that it's overlapping this one. But something like that. And then this pattern is important as well. This, you've got like this pad of meat or whatever it is here, and then it comes around here, and then it's here as well. And this is the arch of the foot here. And so some people have this lowered where this gets more and more filled in. So it might be a bit more flat. I think this is called when you're flat-footed, and it's like that. Like the arch has just sort of collapsed, and this isn't that defined. And when it's super defined, I think that's called having a high arch. Again, not an expert on these things, but I don't know, it sounds about right. So yeah. Okay, so we've done the bottom of the foot and the top of the foot. So this. And I'm going to teach you kind of how I do it, because I do it very simplified. Like, that's it to me. That's the foot and top, and then the bottom, and then from a top view it's more like this. Okay, now the other thing that I haven't covered is the ankle. And so I'm going to do a front view and a back view now. And then I'm going to do a front side view from one side and the other side. So the important thing here in the front view is to understand that there is height here. So if you simplified this as a triangle, you'd be doing okay. I like to think of this part. So this is just, you know, this is the knee up here. You know, you'd have your knee. But it's kind of like this, and then you have a curve, and then this is roughly, like, this isn't exact, and I wouldn't even say this is correct, but this is roughly the shape. Now, why it's not like that, though, is because the body doesn't just have these kind of symmetrical angles to it. So, like, okay, let's look at a leg, for instance. A leg is not a cylinder like this. And this is why I really dislike some of the mannequins that artists learn from. They tend to have kind of things like this, you know? And then maybe a box here, and this is where it's coming forward. Why I dislike this is because this isn't at all how the body actually looks. Everything is tapered or tilted to a degree. So, for instance, let's say we have our knee here, right? Okay, well, the first thing is you have a bone, and it comes down, and it's curved like this. Then, this is the, I guess this is the outside, so this is where the little toe would be, this is where the big toe would be. This part starts higher, and then it comes down. This part starts lower here, and then it comes down. So you see already, like, this isn't a straight line. Then you have this curve, and it goes like this. Takes a bit of a bend. And here's the ankles. So now, this ankle starts higher, and this ankle starts lower here. So you see this one was higher here, and then it goes lower, and then it goes higher here, and then lower here. So then you have this angle. So see here how I simplified it like this, and if you connected those 2 points, there would be a straight line. Here, it's actually like this, and if you connected these 2 points, it would be a diagonal. And so the inner ankle is higher up than the outer ankle. And also, the outer one is further back, and the inner one is further forward, but we'll deal with that in the other view. So you have this shape now, like an S-curve, right? And then you have the foot coming down, and then we have this shape. So you want to think of it, again, like this has height. It's not just, because some other things I've seen is like feet done like this. where there's really no height and you just have the toes like this, but it's not considered, like this part isn't considered really. Like this would be a very shallow foot with bones that, I don't know, they're not connecting right, because it goes higher than this, right? The foot comes up and it goes down. So that's one thing. I have this. And then remember that the big toe, you have this shape, right? Like let's just say we're viewing it differently. It's got this shape, right? So, okay, so the ankle bone here is something like that. So that occupies this space. So if you have, this is the ankle, right? And let's say we're looking here. So this is our point of view, is here, where this is going to be weird, but that's our nose. That's the top of our head. And here's our ears. And our brain is in here somewhere. Anyway, so we're looking this way, right? So we see the ankle here and here, and we see the little toe here, and we see the big toe here. So this is what's important, is to realize like, yeah, there is a difference here, and the same thing here. In the front view, you would see the ankle here and the big toe here, not here, not like that, not just a straight line. Now, depending on the foot, of course, you could have a foot that this is less severe. Like this shape could be more like that, in which case, yeah, you look at the thing and it would be more like that. But I tend to add a little bit of room for that big toe. And then this, again, remember this is going back at a curve. So this, to me, it doesn't just stop here. It's not a straight line like this. This has still got a bit of a curve to it. And then you have your big toe here. And the way I think of it is like, okay, so normally you'd want to do this, right? Like these are just ovals beside each other. Like that, right? But it's not, because this is pressing against the ground. So this flattens out. And then it has this shape where it's like bulges, and then you have the toenail here, but this is the knuckle, and the toenail is more like that, right? It's on a curve. So all these things are really important. Like this would be on a curve, this would be on a curve, this would be on a curve, and as it's going down, it tends to curve more inwards, or at least, you know, from the reference I saw it did. And so it's more like that shape, where you have this triangle formed, or not triangle, but it's got an angle to it. And so here, even though we're looking forward, we tend to do it like that, get the toes in, and then have this flattened out. So let me erase this because it's too many lines overlapping each other. But anyway, okay, so I bring it forward, and then I do think of it kind of like this box, right? So a box like that. Now you don't want to exaggerate it too much. You don't want to do that. I mean, you could have this very crazy exaggerated thing, but it's not necessary. You just need a mild box where your big toe fits in here, and then you have the other toes, and they've got a slight curve to them where it's coming slightly around, because this toe here is much further back than this one, as you would see in this case, right? Big toe here, little toe back here. You've got to show this distance, and the way you do that is by having this on a curve. So, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then remember, you got that angle here, and this fits into this. This has height. All this is height. And then going up, got this, and got this. Okay, now I want to talk about the back view. So let's start with similar thing to the front view. So we have this as the back of the leg, right? And then we have this case again where the ankle has that diagonal, right? So this is higher, so this would be the big toe side, and this would be the little toe side. Now, this is kind of how I think of it first. I think of the first step. So step 1, create this shape. And then step 2, create this shape. And it's going to be this. You've got the Achilles tendon here and the heel. So this part is called the Achilles tendon, and this is the heel, and again, it flattens out, right? So it's like step 1, step 2, get the Achilles tendon and the heel, and then step 3 is figure out which one is the big toe side. So in this case, it would be this one is the big toe side, and then that's where you get this bulging out. So now you have a bulge coming out here, and then the little toe side tends to be more hidden, because again, if we look at the, I'm sorry, I have to keep going through this, but it's just something I see over and over that people get wrong. So it's like here, right? So here's the ankles, here's the little toe side. You might see a bit of the little toe here, which would be right here, it's right here, but you see all this extra here compared to here. That's here, here, and this would be all that extra. So you see that, and then usually, depending on your view, but usually you would see, because this tends to be a perspective view, where the person's standing on a floor, right? So let's say this is the floor, it's a tiled floor. It's in perspective. And so you would tend to see, you know, a bit of the big toe, maybe a big toe showing, maybe some of the smaller toes as it goes around on that curve. But that's what it looks like. So maybe I can correct the ankle a bit more here. But generally this is it. Okay? So that's the shape from behind. And also another thing with the Achilles tendon is it tends to flow, like this isn't like you would outline this, but it's helpful to consider that this tendon seems to flow into the calf muscle. So when you have this calf muscle here, you can feel it as if it's going in this and connecting to this. So again, this can even be simplified as if it's one form. The reason you don't want to do that is because it's not that solid. So you tend to see this form of the tendon, and then you tend to see this form of the calf, but if I was to shade it, it would be something more like this, where it's like, okay, so the calf is more in shadow here. There's actually two big muscles here, and then you have the tendon, and you tend to get some, I don't know, wrinkles here, and then you have the heel, and then this ankle part, and then you have this shape. So this is roughly the shapes that you see. And yeah, and now, okay, so let's say here we angled this more. So we turned this foot more like this. Okay, so now what you'd get is, I usually create a circle for the heel and create the Achilles tendon, and I get the ankle and the other ankle. If you might just see it here. So it's like, okay, so step 1, I guess circle for the heel, then, or you could do the calf and then the tendon and the heel, or you could do it the other way, heel, tendon, and the calf, and the ankles. And then, okay, so it's going to angle this way. So this is the big toe side right here. So we have this coming out like this. Now, for the side view, there's something important that I need to cover, and it'll help with this. So actually, I'm just going to go ahead and cover the side views now. Okay, so for the side view, I've covered this before, and the way I did it before is you had the leg coming down, and then you have the heel, right? I think I simplified the heel as a circle, and then you have this triangle coming down like that. Pretty sure that's how I did it before. And then the difference, the major difference between the side view, two things. One, like whether this is the little toe or the big toe side. One is this, the ankle. Like if it's the little toe, the ankle's a bit further back. and then you have this shape coming down. So it's a triangle shape, and then you have the toe area. And with the little toe side, you have this part between the heel and the front. It's a bit more flat, and then you start with the little toes coming down. And I treat them a little bit like steps, like each toe goes like, that's a little toe, and then that's another toe, and that's another one, and that's another one, and then the big toe is here. Something like that, like you get these steps, right? But anyway, so then you have that. So you may or may not see the big toe. It might be poking out, or it might not. Might be the little toe that comes out, or the second toe, this one might come out further. Or it might be the big toe. So that's one thing. And then if you were to do the same thing, but the little toe, sorry, the big toe side. So let's just copy this. Okay, so the difference would be the ankle, and then this area would be different. So with the ankle, it's going to be a bit more forward, more like it's in the middle, maybe a bit closer to the front actually, whereas maybe this one's a bit more in the middle actually, the little toe side, yeah. And then again here, this part is the Achilles tendon. So remember, in the back view, you got that, comes around like that. And then you have the ankles. This part is here, so that's important. And then you have the calf muscle coming like this into that, and that is here. And it bulges out the most here, right? Okay, so you get your ankle a bit more forward, and then you have more of this shape on the big toe side. You have that arch, right? And you still have the other part poking through where you see this angle is still visible, but it creates more, like it looks more like this shape where you have the heel, and then you have this curve here, and then behind it is that more flat line, and then you have this as the big toe, and then you don't really see the other toes. You might see that this second toe poke out a bit, because these also, they have a shape, right, like this, where it goes up, and then it's like high, and then it goes low, and then it goes like this. Sometimes the big toe is lower in that height part than the second toe. Usually not, but it can be. And so then maybe that one pokes out more. Or also your toes can do like things like this where they bend. And then you would have other things. Is that called hammer toe? Anyway, whatever. It's something. It's something, and it can do that. In which case, yeah, your middle toe may be higher up than, see, higher than the big toe. Not the middle toe. I keep calling it middle toe. Second toe. Right? And then you'd have your little toe here. Okay, so that's the big difference, is these things between these two. It's ankle, this part, you know, flat compared to more round, and then this one you see the descending toes, and this one you only see the big toe. And what I hate is when they're interchangeable, and I actually see this a lot in anime. And the other thing that happens is they often forget the heel. So you get a foot like this. There's no heel, just comes back. And what's the heel for anyway? Well, it's stability. It's like, if you think about it, right? If you have a stick here, and then you have a thing like this, this isn't that stable compared to if you have a stick here, and this would be the ankle. And then you have this coming back, now you have more stability. So anyway, you have the heel, but they don't have the heel, and then they come forward, and then they'll do this kind of thing. It's like, what? What is this? Sometimes they show the toes or sometimes they don't, but it's just really, to me, it's strange. It's very wrong. So don't do that if you're doing that. And the same with this. Don't make toes just all doing the same thing, like a strange animal paw. Okay, so all of that was pretty much what I already covered in a previous tutorial, but now I'm going to show you the big thing that I discovered. I guess this would be my secret technique, which it's not going to be a secret anymore because I'm going to share it with you, but it's this. Okay, so you have the foot here, right? And you have the ankle. Then what I do, and so let's say the heel is going to be on this side, this is the back, this is the front. What I do is I create this shape from the ankle, and it goes like this, and then it goes like that. So you have your leg, circle, and then this, and then this. And then I create this shape, and then I create this shape for the heel. And then it fits together where you have this rhythm from the ankle all the way down to the toes. Now, why is this important? Well, it's going to make things a lot more easy in other views. So let's go back now to this one where we were drawing this. Okay, so let's do this front part. Okay, so what I do is I have the ankle here. So now I'm going to take this rhythm and it's going to go into this part. Goes into the ball of the, is this the ball of the foot? Anyway, where the big toes ball thing is. You have that, and then I create this going back. So again, you from a side view, right? You'd have your ankle comes down, then you have your big toe coming out, and there. Like, it gets really easy. I mean, it helps me draw much faster when I have this method, and it just makes things easier because it's like, okay, I always have this rhythm here, this coming down to this, and I always have this back rhythm here, completing it. It's like, okay, 1, 2, this, this. And so it's like here, I get my big toe here, coming in, like so. And then the other toes here. And it's like, okay, so that's one, and then the other one. And it gets faster, like, the more you do this, but you have this. And you have the little toe. I guess the rhythm is more for the big toe side. But have this triangle thing, you have the Achilles tendon, and you have the ankle. Now, the ankle is like a bulge, and the Achilles tendon is coming like out. It's like a cylinder, right? But then between these two, there's a bit of a hollow, so you can actually suggest that hollow between the Achilles tendon and this ankle. And then you have back of the foot and the little toe, and then the rest of the toes are hidden behind this part, this triangle part, because this here and here, it's very important. This is showing that the foot has some height to it. Same here, see, it's this area. A foot isn't just something that comes down and then it's like that, like very flat. It's not that flat. It's got, comes down, and it's got a heel. Even some people don't have like a prominent heel, but you still have a heel. And then this comes down, and then it gets into a more flat shape. Because of course, yeah, near the toes it is a lot more flat, but it's important to remember this part. And you can think of it like this, like a slope going down, but it's a little more accurate to think of it as more like, okay, you have heel, you have this, you have that, comes down, and then you have it more like this way, so it's going like this. That's exaggerating it quite a bit though, or even like this to make it more blocky, and then you have the area with the toes. Okay. Alright, now this might be a bit more advanced, but I feel like once you have all these pieces of information, you can put them all together and then draw feet from pretty much any perspective. But this requires you the ability to see a 3D form. So what I mean by that is, let's say I say, okay, this is a box, right, from one view, A, and this is the box from the other view, B, and this is the box from, so this is the back, this is the side, back, side, front is C. Okay, so now if I tell you these things with this information, and let's say from the top it says D, okay, D, so this is top. With this information, could you build something like this, where it's like, okay, that's the back, side, B, and top would be D. And then, oh, let's view it from the front. Okay, well, something like this maybe, where this is C, and then this always confuses me. And this would be D, I guess, and then B would be like that. Yeah, that's right, I think. Anyway, so can you do this? Because if you can't do that, what you're missing is this. The form. You are not yet able to see things in 3 dimensions. And this is what you get from 2 things. One is when you do things in perspective, you can build forms. That's one way. And the other is just mileage, just practicing, drawing a ton. Your brain eventually is able to see these forms. And that's why whenever anyone asks me, well, how do I get better? What's the first thing you could do to recommend me, or what could you recommend me to get better? It's like, draw a lot, get your mileage down. Because right now I've shown you the back of the foot, I've shown you the side, I've shown you the front, I've shown you the top. But if you can't put them together, it's going to be very difficult to draw a bunch of different views. But if you can, then it's actually pretty easy. So, okay, so let's say we're doing a view with the heel. Okay, so we got our heel, and we got our ankle, and now this creates a rhythm down. Let's say the bottom part of our feet is here. We have this curve, right? So this is the big toe side. Then we have this coming down. We have this going back, and there. Now you have your Achilles tendon here coming down. You have this ankle part coming forward. You have a bit of a hollow between these two. You show a bit of that back ankle. And this is, again, the big toe side. So got this coming down, comes forward. Okay, so that's a different view, right? And it's a harder view, but it's a different view. And it's not, like, it wasn't that difficult to do when you've got all these. Now, you're also seeing the underside, and you've seen with footprints where there's this part that tends to show up, like, I'm exaggerating it quite a bit, it's a bit more like this, to be honest, but I guess I've been doing my style too much. But anyway, there's like this part that, let's say that a person's walking around on some soil or whatever, right? And they've got dirty feet. Well, what shows up? Well, the part of the footprint. This. So I tend to think of that when I do this as well, because it helps describe the planes. Like, oh, this. Tend to shade those in. Okay, so you've got this, and actually this is starting to look more like the little toe side. Yeah, I think that looks a lot more like the little toe side. This is the big toe side. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I got that wrong. Okay, so this is the little toe side. It was looking weird to me. Sorry, I'm making the mistake that I said don't do that. But anyway, okay, so here. Now, so that's a more complicated view. But what about shoes? Because this is something I never really covered in my other view, in my last tutorial rather. And this is something I think is very important, the shoe part. And what I do is I start with something like this. So let's take this and copy it. Okay, and I'm just gonna lower the opacity so that it's visible, but I can show the shoes, because this is how I think about shoes. Now you need, well, for me, I would probably go to reference because I'm not perfect with shoes, but let's say I was, and I'm just gonna fake it. What I do is like think, okay, so where is the shoe? Well, the heel is here, right? So the shoe's gonna be here. Now it's on, see here, there's a bit of a curve here. Well, this is because this is fat and it's going to hang lower, but once it gets pressed against something, remember that the fat is gonna be squished. You're gonna get a bit of squish here. And the back of the heel is here, right? And you have this part coming down. Now here is this part, the underside of the foot. So we don't see the underside of the foot, we see the underside of the shoe now. Right? So you get that. And maybe these are like wedges. Right? And then you see the underside here. And then you would get like, yeah, the little toe would show here. And maybe you would have a strap here. And yeah, I would really recommend using reference if you're unfamiliar with this, and I probably should be doing that because anyway. Okay, and maybe there's a strap here. So there, you have the shoe. And I always think of the foot first and the shoe second. That's always how I'm thinking about it. I never think of the shoe as an independent thing. And when I do, it's always like even when I do, I don't, because okay, I'll create. Sometimes I'll start with, let's say men's shoes, let's say dress shoes, right? And they have this type of shape to them often. It's really this shape with this, right? And it's very similar to that foot shape that I had originally, just a bit more pointy, right? It's a bit more even on either side, where it's like this and then this, but you still get it where it goes inside more, and then you have the heel part, and then this is a bit more straight, so you get more of this shape straightened out, but I still think of it like this. Now this doesn't look exactly like a shoe just yet, but here, if I add where the foot would come in, and then some laces, I guess that can be some laces coming down, now it's starting to look more like a shoe, right? And then maybe this is very shiny. But yeah, now you have your shoe shape. So I always think of it in terms of a foot shape and not in terms of a shoe first. And this works for a lot of different types of shoes. So the thing is, whenever there's a heel, you have to get that the foot's going to do this type of thing, where it's going to create, first of all, the higher the heel, the more you're going to get a bend here, right? And the more your toes are going to be pushed back in a way. They're not really pushed back, but it's like less of the toe is forward. Whereas, so this is like a higher heel, for instance. I guess this is the little toe side, so the big toe would be here. Okay, so that's like a higher heel. What about, and this becomes more of like a straight line going straight down. If it was a lower heel, let's say it's just a kitten heel, then it would be more along the lines of this, where it's like, okay, you just have a very gentle curve, and you still see more of the toes, because like the ball of the foot is here on a small heel, and so this shape, see, it goes down, the leg part goes down, and then comes around and goes forward, as opposed to with a higher heel. Let's just do a crazy high heel where you get more of this shape, and the heel, yeah, this heel tends to jut out more this way because, you know, it's being pushed, and then your ankle is more visible as well, comes down like that. Then you've got the little toes here. And you might even see the arch of the foot more because it's having to bend so much more. And actually that would be a lot thinner here. And yeah, so that's a crazy painful heel, but whatever. And then again, if we're going to put shoes on top of this, you can do something like this, where it's just, you know, maybe you would see more like that. But anyway, that's the idea. You create the foot first and then the shoes, and let's say the shoes go like that. Well, you just create the part that is going over the foot, and then, I mean, you can fill that in. Now, of course, if you're doing this all by pen, it's harder to, because you can't erase. So that's something that I have trouble with, is dealing with pen. The way I tend to do it is to just, I still do like a light shape of the foot first, and then I create, okay, like with darker pressure, I create where the rest of the shoe goes. Something like that. Okay, so now I guess I'll do a few more different styles of, or types of footwear. Alright, so let's just finish the heels. Okay, so high heels from the back, sort of get a shape like this, and kind of like that. Right? Now, if the heel is not like doing that, but it's just stopping here, then this is the foot. So you've got this, then you've got that part, and then the front part. Maybe the toe shows up a bit. Okay, but if it's covering that, then you just have that shaded in. And then from the front, it's basically what it is it's just, you think of a foot, right? And you think of it pointing down, and then you have the toes. Again, they're doing that thing. So remember that angle we had from the big toe side, where you start with the ankle, right? And then you go into the big toe. There's that rhythm. Okay, so get that. And then at this part, the toes are facing towards us, right? So you have a descent, which is this part going down, this part going down, and then you have this coming forward. So this is going down, and then this is coming forward. Okay, so you get that. Okay, goes into the ankles, and then you put in the heel in the back. And the heel, as you see here, it's at an angle, right? So this goes down at an angle, and then to put the shoes on, what I do is I create like this U shape for this area, and then a triangular shape for this part coming forward, because from the top view it looks more like that. And then you can just go ahead and shade it if you want, or create the back. And the heel is going to be obscured. Maybe again there's some straps or things. Doesn't matter what. But anyway, so that's that. So front, back, and then yeah, top view, I guess like that. Like that. Just thinking about the foot inside. Get your ankle, other ankle. Guess it would be something like this. These are where the bones would be, I suppose. Oh, geez, that's not right. It's probably a bit more offset. More like this, I think. Or something like that. Anyway. Okay, so that's that. And then underneath, you've got this part, which is that. And you've got this part, and then the heel part would be coming forward, like that. I mean, it's easier if it's a bit at an angle, because you can do this, and then the heel comes down. And I guess the only part that I find, not the only part I find difficult, because I guess it was a bit difficult to figure out heels, is that the bottom part, this part, you know, it's just the, what do you call it, the point, the spiky thing. Oh, and if anyone can answer, what's the difference between stilettos and pumps? I don't know, but anyway, this thing, you just have to remember how it is within the form. So like this curves down where the heel is, it curves down into it, and this is aligned to the middle of that point. So this point, right? If you go dot dot dot, you'll find the heel somewhere around there, dot dot dot, because it has to, you know, be stable. So that's high heel shoes. And so now let's do the easiest. The easiest are probably sandals, because whatever, it's super easy. Just a barefoot pretty much with, here's the toe. And the other toes, and then you just have that part coming around like that. And this is a top-down view. Ankle goes into this rhythm, and then you have the heel poking out. And then you have that middle, whatever thing, the strap comes down. And that's pretty much it. Doesn't seem too complicated. So yeah, from the side it's pretty much the same thing, just barefoot with a strap, something like that. Okay, so let's do running shoes. Running shoes, I find what was hardest for me was this, especially when they're running towards you. Okay, so I create and get the ankle, right? And let's do that rhythm. So we're always doing this rhythm of the ankle to the big toe, get that in, and then getting the heel in the back, right? So, okay, so this is our foot. It's running. Okay, so now let's put a, let me just knock that back a bit so it's a bit lighter. Let's put our running shoes on top. So the thing I found that really helps is to create this part of the shoe, like, you know, from the front, if you see it, has like that thing that goes underneath. Like I create that, and then it just becomes super easy for some reason. You know, you get your, that part, you have this with the laces, and then your ankle's back here. Maybe, you know, if you're wearing socks, and then you have the back of the heel here. So in this case, you get that, and it flattens here, and you've got a crunch here. And then you have a bit of a heel, but not like the high-heeled shoes. And then you have your ankle, so you have clearance for that. And then, I don't know, like pretty much to me that's about it. And then you just have your laces and whatever design, I suppose. Let's add 4 stripes, just so... Anyway, something like that, right? And your knee would be up here. You're running. So, again, I guess you're seeing the pattern now, right? Like, once you have the foot, it's just find reference and look what things are doing. So, like dress shoes. Okay, so, again, ankle, big toe coming forward, heel in the back. Alright. Let's say for men's dress shoes. A bit of a, you come inside, like this heel part from a front view. Does this thing where you have a bit of a heel. Usually, I mean, not all dress shoes are the same, but when it comes down like that, and you have this part here. Alright, so then something like this, I suppose, and I guess you would have the laces. And again, I try and think of this front part, like what would that be doing? And you have that, and then this is pointing, like this angle is here, and this angle actually should be more like this. Comes up here, so that's why I'm adding this crease here, and if I put a highlight, it would be on this part, the flat part here, and not necessarily on this if this is at a different angle. So something like that you get. And then, you know, sometimes I guess you wouldn't really have that. I don't know. I mean, shoes are different. It's weird. Just look at reference. That's there's that, and then I don't know if there's any other. What other types are there of, like, I guess you could wear those like shoes for the, like, schoolgirls have the shoes where they come around like this, and then they're just a lot more like ballet flats. And I don't know, it's the same idea, right? You go down, you get the ankle, you get the rhythm, you get the heel, and then just rounding it out. So yeah, I guess those are the different types of shoes, and I guess real quick we can just go through some more poses. So underside of a foot, you know, I start with this shape, which is that shape here that we started with, but I'm pushing it, right? I'm distorting it, and then I'm getting the heel, getting the ankle comes down. So then just build it like that. What else? Maybe a view like this, I guess. Maybe a person sleeping and you're like looking behind them. So that's all going to be in perspective back here. That would be their butt, I guess. And then again, I always create this shape first, and then I create the toe shapes within, or the whatever delineation of where the toes would be after. So it just makes it easier, and you'll see in the one I'll do another how to draw hands one. I use the same thing. I always put it. I try and contain it in a shape. I guess the only time. No, even if the toes are spread out, like, I would still put it in a bigger shape, right? See, I have that shape, and then instead of doing that, I would just spread that out more, and then just remember that these are all coming back to a point. Yeah. I don't know. What else? I guess that's it. So, I hope you learned something about drawing feet, and I hope that tip to, you know, create that angle helped, because I mean, this to me is just what made it super easy. The ankle, heel, and the heel is connecting to the Achilles tendon. Like, that's what just made it for me, made it so much easier. So I hope that helps as well. I hope it helps you as much as it helped me. And thanks for watching.